Good evening and welcome to the Rotary Four-Way Speech Contest. My name is Gabe Pytel and I'm the Rotary President here in Jefferson, Ohio. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Rotary. Rotary International is one of the largest service organizations in the world. Through our 4 pillars, we provide service, promote integrity, and advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace through the fellowship of business, professional, and community leaders. So what does that mean in the village of Jefferson? So our group believes in service above self. And aside from a lot of charitable works that we do in the community and the maintaining of the fountain, we emphasize and try to recognize a lot of the youth in our community. We have 2 $1,000 scholarships that we award every year. We do graduation signs in May that some of you might start to see. We have our Artists of the Month program, which is something we started a few years ago where we recognized students in the arts, band, and choir and give them some recognition. We provide popcorn at the community center movie nights. It's free. We've just started last year a free fishing tournament for kids at Beaumont Boy Scout camp, and it's been a really successful event and a lot of fun. And all year we collect cans for our Cans for Kids program. And we just actually gave away some funds to a local girl that had a double lung transplant. And she had a fund through, it was called Children's Organ Transplant Association. And it's a non-taxable kind of account that she'll have through her whole life that can be used for medical expenses and whatever she needs. And we were able to raise $1,100 last year collecting cans. So a very touching story, and we're excited to do that. We're also very excited to continue with our 4-way speech contest. It's been a long time since we have done this, and this is going to be our first in the Jefferson High School auditorium, so we're very excited. The 4-way test in Rotary was adapted in 1943 from the Rotary Club of Chicago. And it's really a moral code that you can use for personal and business relationships and can be used in really any aspect of life. You know, these are the questions that we ask ourselves in Rotary when we're considering projects. You know, we go through these four questions. You know, we're just excited and very happy that Mrs. Koch has taken on this contest. She's really taken the bulls by the horn and done a lot of work. We're very grateful to her and of all the hard work by the students. We're very thankful to have our judges here from the Western Reserve Toastmasters and Steris Toastmasters. We really appreciate their time for coming out here. You know, this is going to be a fun night. I'm excited to hear the speeches. I know the kids have been working really hard, and they have an opportunity to win some prize money from our club. And the winner tonight will actually get to go to our district competition. And I think last year's prize was $1,200. So there's a lot of stake and well deserving. So I'm going to give a shameless plug that we do meet on Thursday nights in the Jefferson Library. I would be amiss if I didn't mention that we're always looking for fun and exciting people to join us on Thursday evenings. But again, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Koch, who's done a lot for this contest, so I'll let her take it away. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome. I am really excited. I'm Abby Koch. I'm an ELA teacher here at Jefferson, and I was invited to a September Rotary Club meeting where I learned about the history of the 4-way test speech contest. And I learned that our district participated in the contest supposedly like 30 years ago, like in the 90s or something. And anyone remember that? Any chance? No? I thought, okay. That's what I was told. I'll buy it. And I learned that the contest judging guidelines and scoring rubric were so like beautifully, serendipitously aligned with our speaking and listening standards. ELA teachers somewhat dread teaching, and it was just could be inspirational for them. And most importantly, I learned that my students would get to choose their own topic. They could choose their own ethical issue to demonstrate fire in the belly, as the rubric says. And I went, okay, now this is doable. If they can talk about something they're fired up about, that's going to show. I discussed this opportunity with the English department and Mrs. Alyssa Barrier. She decided that with me that we would adopt the prompt as an assignment for our 12th and 11th grade students. And I was nervous about one element only, and that was that out of the 130 plus students that would be given this assignment, would I be able to scrounge up 5 students willing to speak here today on a stage with a microphone? That's a really intimidating, position to be in. Especially we're talking about students who were 8th and 9th graders in March 2020. So they just had fewer model speakers that they got to see, and those skills that they were a little limited in being able to work on. So I was so grateful to be out of that concern so quickly. I was blown away by the speeches our students did. They moved me a couple times because the passion that they demonstrated. And I just wanted to point out that 50% of this scoring rubric is for delivery. So they could have research, they could have beautiful, organization in their writing, but when it came down to it, to present in front of their classmates, teenagers, they had to do their own fake it till they make it confidence and our power posing, which they're doing back there right now, and really demonstrate that they cared about something. And that was such a vulnerable act that I was so grateful to watch my standards align with real, meaningful work for them. So I'm very grateful to the Rotary Club for that opportunity. So just keep that in mind. It takes such bravery for them to come up and do this. So I'm so proud. I'm so proud. So I want to thank everyone, judges, our lovely Toastmasters here. Of course, the families of our contestants and the Jefferson Rotary Club, thank you so much for providing this opportunity for our students. So first, we have Xavier Busch with his topic, Mental Health Accessibility.
Imagine with me, you're walking a tightrope. You're holding onto that long pole to keep your balance. You start taking steps forward and you're making great progress when suddenly weight's added to one side. No matter, so you make the proper adjustments and keep right on going, but then weight's added to the other side. This keeps happening back and forth, weight being added, you're thrown off balance, you're still trying to take steps forward, it's too hard to manage, you slip and fall. Many people around the world are facing these moments of losing balance, where our mental health becomes so exhausted, we break down. We break down. This figurative weight can be managing relationships, school, issues such as normal stresses in daily life. We all face stress in life, and some of us are battling our own mental fights. So the accessibility of mental health is a concern that needs to be addressed, and moving to an online platform will help to alleviate some of these struggles. In addition, adjusting standards in school to accommodate this will help. So let's take this issue and put it to the 4-weight test. Is it the truth? Isolation and loneliness, increased social media use, the COVID-19 pandemic. What do all 3 of these have in common? They are some of the main causes of an increase in mental illness and disorder. The CDC even states 1 in 5 Americans are already diagnosed with a mental illness or disorder. But that's okay, because as for you normal 80%, you have a 50% chance to be diagnosed at some point in your life with a mental illness or disorder. That's the same chances as flipping a coin with your mental health on the line. The truth is plain and simple. Left untreated, it'll lead to a dramatic change in work and school environments. And looking at these 2 environments helps us to address the second point, if it is fair for all concerned. Now, more than ever, are we seeing an increase in mental exhaustion, with more people taking days off to alleviate concerns relating to their mental well-being. Now, this is understandable, because if you broke your arm, you wouldn't be expected to return the next day. So why would it be any different if we suffer a panic attack or other mental distress? Even effective tools like the Family and Medical Leave Act don't fix the issue. While others can't afford the drive, they aren't able to match the scheduling and meeting with a therapist, and you see, this doesn't seem fair to me. But what does seem fair is online therapy. Being like a soft clay, molding to our schedule and our needs. We'd be able to text or call our therapist and get on-the-spot help. Imagine having to remember everything days or even weeks ago because you were waiting for your appointment. With an online platform making mental health more accessible, you'd be able to express what you're feeling then and there, right as you're feeling it. Now, this may even make you wonder about the third question. How can we build goodwill and better friendships when we are struggling mentally? The pandemic has affected many people in various different ways, and only as we come to a close can we see what the true effects are. I was talking with one of my teachers, and they were mentioning the SEL, or Social and Emotional Learning Standards. These standards have been majorly adjusted to accommodate for the lack of social interaction some people had because of the pandemic. These standards help to build self-awareness, build and manage relationships, and other good qualities that build on one's own character. However, these do not cover the full scope. It doesn't teach students how to identify or manage their issues. And if a teacher sees something, they're just to refer the student to a counselor if the school has one. If you see the issue here, you see that teachers take a big part in shaping, and by not adjusting these standards, it is crucially detrimental to building goodwill and fostering better friendships. With the fourth question, is virtual care beneficial to all concerned? Plain and simple, yes. Mental health affects many aspects of our life, and it is a main priority, so keeping it healthy helps to make the best version of ourselves. AgerCare, a mental health platform, was listing some of the issues and barriers that people face in seeking these benefits. This includes transportation, social stigmas, and a lack of providers and services in more rural areas. They also reinstate that these barriers can be overcome by moving to an online platform. Interestingly enough, sitting down and talking one-on-one is quite scary to many. Instead, with an online platform, we'd be able to create a safe place for all people, whether they're at school, work, or those fearful of what others might think. Mental health issues can be scary, but when we take the time to make it more accessible for all, we alleviate that, making it more accessible and equal opportunity for everyone. Think about the benefit to your work or your school community. If we made mental health accessible for all, you'd be able to benefit not only yourself, but the community and society as a whole. We're moving to a more tech-based environment, so let's extend that expansion into mental health counseling. Not only by making it more accessible for all, but adjusting standards in school to help teach people, the students, how to identify and manage their own issues. This would help alleviate some of the causes and concerns as compared to if no care was taken. So when you're dramatically wobbling, reach your arms out for support, because somebody will be there to catch you before you fall. Thank you.
Next, we have Gabrielle Culbertson speaking on the American medical system.
I'm sure we've all known somebody mistreated by the American medical system, whether that's been in hospitals, through medical insurance, or just when being seen by a physician. In the past year, 27% of America's older adults say that they have been mistreated in our hospital systems, according to the Commonwealth Fund. That is 8,937,000 people. That's a lot of people. Though this mistreatment goes without being seen, it still happens. Now, America, we have a very unequal way of judging insurance rates and the way that we pay for things. For example, a 20-year-old in America is paying $200 on health insurance in a month. Double their age, they're 40. They're paying $250 a month on health insurance. Now, the age of retirement in America is currently 67. If you look at what they're paying average on monthly insurance, it is $600. And that is only because they're seen more likely to get hurt. How is that fair? And not to mention, the way we pay for things in our hospitals is based on how long it takes your doctor. What is the service like? How is this fair? Growing up, some of my family members had chronic illnesses, Some of them were retired and some of them were still working. Their hospital bills became so detrimental to their retirement, some of them had to go back to work. Some of them had to get second jobs, just so they could get the things that they needed to survive. How is that fair? If we take America's medical disparities into consideration, could we prove our system to be demeaning by age groups and race? Could we find a new way to judge rates and a new way to pay for things? Is it fair? Is it the truth? The truth behind this topic is very sad. Thousands of people are currently paying thousands of dollars for treatments that don't work for them. They're wasting their money. Their insurance are skyrocketing. In December of 2020, Patient Advocate Foundation sent out an email, and they helped these people with case management and financial management. 20% of these people had reported to be mistreated. 45% of these people were mistreated because of their disease. 51% of these people were mistreated because of their insurance status, and 31% of the people say they were mistreated because of discrimination, solely because they were Black, Indigenous, or people of color. Not to mention, the older Americans are still paying more money on health insurance every month. So, how are they ever going to retire? People who have fought in wars for our country, voted in our elections, and even worked a simple 9-to-5 job. How are they going to retire and live the rest of their life peacefully and happily? Is it fair to all concerned? No, it is not. Our medical system is constantly expanding. We're developing more research about critical topics, critical illnesses, and diseases. However, we're still not expanding. People can't get into the hospitals easier, and it's actually becoming harder to make appointments, harder to be seen by medical physicians. So, if you ask this question to the nation, being, why can't we get into the doctors easily? COVID would most likely be blamed. In the past 3 years, our lives have drastically changed, whether that's from mandates like masks and vaccines, or restrictions on government buildings or even hospitals. That should never be a thing. Heart attacks, strokes, they always occur. You can't pause these things, so we always need our access to medical care. Gaps in treatments have also been found. There's been overlooked symptoms in patients' health problems. So, what are health disparities? They are gaps because of age groups and race. Health disparities, they're gaps because of social economic groups, because of ethnic groups, because of sexual orientation, beliefs, and your age and your life. You should not be discriminated on because of who you are just to get health care. Will it build goodwill and better friendships? If we can come together and inform America about the way that we've been mistreated in hospitals, we can inform them about the way that they are being treated and the way other people are being treated, and then maybe we can come together and find a way to get over this. Currently in our nation, we are paying fee-for-service, which is where we go to a hospital and pay for an appointment, and we pay for our services, the things that the doctors are doing for us, without even knowing if there's going to be a benefit, a result. You're wasting thousands of your dollars to get a surgery that is only 50% to work. How is that fair? We need to change the way our system does things. We can adopt something called a value-based pay care system. This is where you're paying based on how you're treated. You're paying based on if your medical system is seen as equal. So, will it be beneficial to all concerned? If we can adopt these properties and expand and allow inclusion, we can come together and make this happen. A value-based pay care system would help our people. We could come together. Everybody would be treated equally. Doctors, they might think that it's not okay because they don't think they're going to get paid the same. But if they treat all patients with the same amount of integrity and hope, they would still get their pay. We would pay for getting our treatments done, and only if they help us. So that's saving money for people, like the retired, the old. As you know, as you get older, your life and your body, it slowly deteriorates. It's sad to say, I know, but that means they're gonna have more bills for their medical problems because they're gonna be going to the doctors more. So why are they gonna wanna pay so much more just to try and stay alive? If we could find a way to help them, that would be very much better. So if we adopt this system and we come together and we focus on our country based on results and respect, we could lose stress based on financial problems, debt, scarce, and our children, our adults. More people would be more comfortable to go into hospitals and have appointments because they would finally feel free to go and be seen. We could come together, we could expand, we could include, and overall, everything would be focused on kindness, results, respect, treatment, and there would be less scares of being put into a big tent. Thank you.
Next, we have Larry Phelps on social formality.
Keep your chin up. Stand up straight. Elbows off the table. These are just some of the many condescending phrases said by people who practice social formality. Social formality is essentially a code of conduct for how to coordinate yourself in public, or in some cases even with family. Although it was beneficial centuries ago, it has evolved to become a detriment to our modern society. As somebody who grew up in a formal church around a formal family, I've had experiences where it just wasn't possible for me to meet expectations implied. And by putting social formality to Rotary International's four-way test, I will prove that it needs to be reformed. The Rotary International four-way test asks 4 questions. The first question is it the truth? No, it isn't. Social formality involves speaking with perfect proper grammar. However, in our modern society, there are hundreds of various dialects that sound nothing like social formality implies it should. I mean, come on, if I ask my fellow students how many of them have at least once been annoyingly corrected "may I" when they asked the teacher if they could use the bathroom, most of them would probably say yes. And the few who say no were probably raised in a formal family like I was. In addition to that, showing emotion, especially crying, is heavily frowned upon. People who practice social formality will coordinate themselves with a stiff posture and usually an expressionless face or sometimes a light smile. This can cause them to appear insincere or uncaring, which can be a huge issue in schools and in the workplace. When students are in school, they want a lively and engaging teacher. And if they don't have that, they won't feel compelled to learn. And if you're in the workplace, you'll feel a lot better about completing a task if you were asked nicely to do so, instead of being sternly ordered with an expressionless face. If we cut this expectation, people coming out of school and out of the workplace will have more diverse and unique personalities, and then and only then will it be the truth. The second question asked is it fair to all concerned? It is not. There are many people with physical or social barriers that causes them to not be able to meet these expectations. For example, autism causes difficulty with coordination, posture, causes stuttering, and so much more. And because of social formality's lack of emotion, there are so many kids being left undiagnosed and struggling with all that and more for most of their life because of the lack of empathy for where they may be struggling. It took me until I was 17 to be diagnosed with autism because my behavioral struggles were simply seen as childish outbursts, then as the effects of puberty, and then as just a lack of incentive. Not only is it unfair to neurodivergent people, but it is also unfair to the poor. Centuries ago, clothing consisted mostly of formal clothing. And if people couldn't afford to buy formal clothing, they could usually make it themselves. In our modern day, it costs more than $200 to rent a cheap suit and tie for one night. This can make social formality very difficult to enforce in areas of poverty. A trend analysis by development initiatives found that 9% of the world population lived in extreme poverty, 1/5 of the world population lived in moderate poverty, and 2/5 of the world population lived on just $5.50 a day or less. To put this in perspective, I, as a high school student, make $16.50 a day. I know that if I was suddenly expected to pay an exorbitant expense on something, I couldn't. And if I can't, almost half of the world population can't either. And this is proven with the story of 13-year-old Cameron Khan of Pakistan. When Cameron was, on March 24th, 2012, Cameron Khan stood outside of his home after receiving harassment from students and staff because he could not afford a school uniform. He doused himself in gasoline and lit himself on fire and died 6 days later in the hospital due to complications. This is just one circumstance, but because of the state of the world, not only will poverty increase, but so will the cost of living, and so will cases like this. Not only do we need to think about that, but we need to think about the homeless population. To get a job, you need to ace an interview. To ace an interview, you need formal clothing. To get formal clothing, you need a job. And homeless people usually don't have a job. And they can't get a job because they don't have formal clothing to ace an interview, which leaves them in a paradox. And a lot of them are not able to get back into a house because they have nobody else around to support them. And most homeless people are homeless because they have nobody. And if you don't believe they have nobody, the National Library of Medicine, just a few years ago, a lot of years after the 2010 census, found that of the 1,192 homeless people they tried to catch up with, they discovered 152 of them were dead, without their knowledge, without any record of them having died. And of these 1,192 people, you may want to look on the bright side and say, well, maybe some of them got a house. Maybe some of them recovered. But of the 1,192 people that were homeless that they caught up with, only 6 had a house. Only 6 of 1,192. That's way more than 99%. The next question asked is, will it build goodwill and better friendships? No, it won't. Like I said before, social formality creates an insincere, emotionless persona, and without any sincerity, there will be no foundation for a friendship to even be built. And people who practice social formality, especially the wealthy, are often competing with each other to achieve a highest class formality. And social formality is an important value deeply rooted into religion. And because of its lack of empathy, there are so many minority groups such as the LGBTQ who receive hatred from people of these religious groups just because they coordinate themselves differently. This does the opposite of build goodwill and better friendships for our society and could lead to disastrous consequences for our country. The final question asked is, will it be beneficial to all concerned? No. In fact, it can actually prove to be a detriment to mental health, especially for people with anxiety. A study by the Anxiety and Depression Association of America found that 31.1% of Americans estimated suffer from anxiety. But because of that lasting stigma caused by social formality against showing emotion, only 3.1% of Americans are diagnosed, which is only 10% of the estimated that suffer. And back on the topic of school uniforms, while some people say that it prevents bullying for expressional differences, that lack of expression can be a problem in itself. Because not being able to express yourself if you feel trapped may cause you to feel even more trapped, and in turn can cause more mental issues. And a study by Parenting Science found that between schools that did and didn't have school uniforms, there was an equal rate of aggression, defiance, and property damage. The only people that this seems to benefit is the group of wealthy people I talked about that are competing with each other for that highest class formality. So social formality, which was before a code of living for all of the common people, now boils down to a statement of wealth and class. And it actually harms society. The solution to this, however, is not to abolish it, but to reform it and reconfine it to an institute which would benefit from that lack of emotion, which is politics. By selecting politicians for their policies alone rather than their personality, which is a common issue in American politics, we will not only benefit the quality of life in America, but around the world as well. And by removing this expectation in other institutions, we will better the individual lives of people around us. Thank you.
Next we have Avery Nank speaking on the importance of dance.
Your head is full of words. It's building up slowly with all sorts of things that haven't been said. But why haven't you said it? You've been at work every day, silently focused on the tasks you have to do. You don't have to tell everyone how you're feeling, but sometimes expression is important. Expression through music, writing, or art. But what I feel is especially important is dance. I know what you're probably thinking. Well, this is silly. She's just a girl who likes to dance for fun. Right? But no, I'm serious. This art is important. Now, yes, I have been dancing for 15 years, and I'm not saying you have to do the same thing, but at least notice the importance. Is it the truth? Is it true that something 3-year-old little girls do is significant? Well, yes, but that's not everyone who does it. Countries all over the world celebrate their existence not only through historical scripture, but also through movement. Some of the most well-known cultural movers are from Africa. They dance as a community. This is their way of bonding between the younger and older generations. The vibrant music, the traditional movements, it all comes together to form a beautiful performance. At rightforeducation.org, Juliet Martin says, playing drum is very common in African dance. The dancers will often move to the beat of the drum. The beat of the drum can be like the heartbeat of the community. No one can live without a heart. Therefore, a community cannot live without its heart. Speaking of living, dance is also important to those who do it as a living. Now, people who perform to gain their income are often very passionate about it. And I say this because it does not pay well at all. And to manage a life with this kind of job, you usually have to have one or more side jobs. It's not easy. So why do they do it? Because they love it. Because it's important to them. Actually, from a personal perspective, I know someone who grew up in Ashtabula, Ohio, got a BFA in dance at the Fordham Ailey University, performed with many well-known companies. She's amazing. The problem is, she just now finished paying off all of her student debt, and she's in her 40s. Some people might think, why get such a higher education if you're going to get such a low paycheck? But that brings us to our next point. Is the importance of dance fair to all concerned? Most people use the phrase, no, I can't dance, when refusing to hit the dance floor. The problem with that is as long as you can move, you can dance. In fact, there are even companies that are making it easier for people with disabilities to move to their fullest potential. In Cleveland, Ohio, a company called Dancing Wheels proudly informs us that they are recognized as one of the first and foremost professionally, physically integrated companies in America, uniting dancers both with and without disabilities. You might also wonder, what about the people that can't hear the music? A perfect example would be Gallaudet University. They are determined to incorporate American Sign Language into all of their repertoire. These companies are here and waiting for anyone who's willing to reach outside of their comfort zone. So, does dance build goodwill and better friendships? Actually, a great bonding experience is watching a dance performance with somebody else. When you go to a show with someone else, you tend to talk about it endlessly with that person. You talk about what you did like, what you didn't like, and how those movements impacted you. As Dance Magazine puts it, because we crave social connection, we love watching a performance in a crowd and reacting to the other audience members' reactions and emotions. This is a great way to build a better friendship with the person sitting right next to you. I actually experienced a revitalizing moment after watching the Alvin Ailey Company perform at Playhouse Square. they performed one of their most famous pieces called Revelations. The next day at classes, I felt like a whole new person. I envisioned their movements in my mind and tried to be as still and controlled as them. It changed my whole perspective on who I am as a dancer. It even changed the way I dance with my peers. So, is dance beneficial to all concerned? To be technically correct and intricate requires lots of intricate muscles. So by focusing on these specific muscles, you will become stronger. And now, you won't only be toned, but you will also be healthier. Pulse lists 10 health benefits of dance in their health and wellness articles. They include better brain health, increased flexibility, minimize stress, reduce depression, increase energy, weight loss, a better cardiovascular health, better coordination, strength, and balance, a better social and emotional health, and even a higher self-esteem and confidence. So dance is a form of expression that does not need words. So if you're uncomfortable using your words, movement will do just as well. So I challenge you to act like that 3-year-old little girl and twirl around your living room like no one's watching. Thank you.
To conclude our student contestants here, we have Mason Pawlowski speaking on NIL deals in the NCAA. Don't worry, I'll tell you what that means.
Imagine you're an outstanding high school athlete. You're about to embark on another journey, and you're trying to choose a college of which you would like to continue your athletic playing career. Each school is going to offer you a full scholarship. However, one will be offering you $50,000 in what the NCAA, which is the National Collegiate Athletic Association, calls an NIL deal, or a name, image, and likeness deal. So, being this high school student, broke high school student, I think I would probably be choosing the school that'll really pay me extra money to go to their school. So I would like to pose how NIL deals are being the destruction to college athletics to this Rotary 4-way test. This first part of this test is it the truth? And so I like to think about current 5-star quarterback recruit, Jaden Rashada. He recently signed his letter of intent to play for the University of Florida. And then after he signed this letter of intent, he also was set to be having an NIL deal of a whopping $13 million spread across his 4 years of play. However, a couple weeks went by, this deal was said to no longer be coming to fruition. So you know what this 5-star recruit decided? He decided to ditch that letter of intent. He decided to decommit, and he is currently on the process of being recruited again, looking for another school to play for, along with that wealthy NIL deal. So, with that, I think it is exactly the truth that the player will simply follow the school, which will give them the money. Which brings me to my next question. Is it fair to all concerned? When I think of fairness, I think of current Miami men's basketball player, Nigel Peck. He recently transferred in from Kansas State. After he signed his letter of intent to play for Miami Hurricanes, he also signed an NIL deal of $800,000 and was promised a car from this company, Life Wallet. Now you're wondering, why couldn't he sign with Life Wallet when he was at Kansas State? Well, the reason being is Life Wallet is owned by John Ruiz. John Ruiz is an avid fan of Miami Hurricane athletics, and he's known to fund multiple NIL deals for the Hurricane athletes. So, but couldn't there be anybody else out there in Kansas to fund these NIL deals for Kansas State players? Well, the facts come down to it is there really isn't anyone, because the highest NIL deal for any player at Kansas State is only $200,000. Only, right? Oh, only $200,000. Well, if you think about it, he's going to make $600,000 plus a car more for the Miami team. So when I think of fairness, I think, how is it fair at all that this player can just simply leave this school and go somewhere else and make all this money? Which brings me to the third part of our test. Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And I simply think it'll do the exact opposite. It'll build division between players and division between schools. When I think players, I think of current USC quarterback. He's making $4 million in NIL deals. While he has 5 linemen, yes, 5, who are supposed to be in front of him, protecting him each play. However, these 5 linemen together are not making nearly as much as he is. So there has been said that he's been getting pressure from his own linemen for having cash or just simply gifts to make up for the loss in NIL money. Now, when I think of schools, I think of the Big Ten Conference. In the Big Ten Conference, you have schools like Maryland and Rutgers, who are competing against schools like Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State. Now, with that, Maryland and Rutgers simply do not have the powerful enough alumni and fans compared to Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan State to bring in these top recruits and pay these outlandish NIL deals. So you know what happens? It jeopardizes the conferences. It allows the schools to bring these top recruits and not allow the other schools to bring them in, which creates division between the schools, division between the conferences, and will ultimately lead to a split. So when I think of it building goodwill and better friendships, it simply does the opposite. So our last part of this test is, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And so I think of, in this case, benefits, right? I think of LSU gymnast Olivia Dunn. She has grown mass amounts of fans through social media. She has millions and millions of fans across her different social media accounts and is ranked in the top 5 with NIL money. However, recently she has become, at her meets, she has had her fans come and become extremely unruly and just not kind how they should be at their meets supporting her. And it's been so bad that it's led to her team, they're literally having to heighten their security presence at their meets, not just home, but away. You know, and think about it, the security is not just for her, it's for the entire team. It's become so bad. And her teammates don't contribute at all to her NIL, her name, image, and likeness, at all to those deals. So they're just innocent throughout it all. However, not only is the security presence being heightened, there's been team policies that her teammates and herself are no longer going to be able to go out into the stands to meet with their families and friends because of these unruly fans of hers, just hers. So with the NIL, it's simply being hurtful, not just to herself, but her teammates along her side who are completely innocent throughout it all. So what I want you to understand is that with NIL in college sports, it has led to uncontrollable fans, players who simply fall on the money, and just not what we want to see in a young adult's rising life. And so I want you to think, is it right for these athletes, these young athletes, to be simply bought by the schools, while there's some innocent teammates along the way who simply choose a school for how it fits to them academically and how it fits to them in the family's social life, and if that is simply right. Thank you.
Wow, just blown away by your speeches. We were really impressed, beyond our expectations. As far as mine, I was, very, very excited to hear everything you delivered. So, we'll get to it. I'm glad we had the judges, because that would have been very hard for, I think, a lot of us to do. So we really appreciate the time they took to go through that. So we're going to start with our, our first two runner-ups, we're actually going to award $50 each. And our first is Gabrielle Culbertson. Congratulations, thank you. Our other runner-up would be Larry Phelps. And our third place winner tonight for a $200 prize is Mason Pawlowski. Congratulations. And our first runner-up this evening with a $300 prize is Xavier Busch. Congratulations. And our winner this evening was Avery Nank. Congratulations. She wins a $500 prize and a chance to go to districts in Kent in April. So,
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah, awesome job. Also wanted to give Mrs. Coach a little something. We have the same thing, just as a thank you for your time and effort. So we appreciate it. Thank you very much. We had a great time. That concludes our contest. We look forward to next year. Congratulations again. We had a great time. Thank you.